Bullshit. That's the first word that came to mind. Not exactly the language of a lady, I know, but after 45 years balancing ledgers to the penny, you were in the right to call a spade a damn shovel. I was sitting at my kitchen table, the good one my late husband Robert sanded down himself, the one that still smells faintly of lemon polish and old memories. My mug of Earl Grey was steaming beside me, the bergamot a sharp, clean scent in the stale air of late-night accounting. It was tax season, that special circle of hell reserved for April, and I was doing my daughter-in-law Sarah's books. A favor, you know. Ever since my son, David, passed, I've tried to look out for her. She's a sweet girl, but honey, she has all the financial acumen of a dandelion puff in a hurricane. So there I was, clicking through her Wells Fargo statements on my laptop, the screen casting a ghoulish blue light on my face. The numbers were swimming a little. My eyes aren't what they used to be, but my mind is still a steel trap. I saw her salary deposits, clear as day. I saw the mortgage payments, the utilities, the weekly grocery runs to Kroger. It was all tidy, all predictable. And then I saw the chasm. It wasn't a typo. It wasn't a misplaced decimal. It was a $50,000 void. $50,000. Gone. Vanished from her savings account over the last 6 months in a series of transfers I couldn't account for. The blood drained from my face so fast I felt lightheaded. My arthritis, which usually hums at a low throb in my knuckles, suddenly flared up like a nest of angry hornets. You know that feeling? When fear gets physical, when it settles right into your bones and makes you feel every one of your 72 years. 50 grand. That's more than my entire Social Security check for a decade. That was a huge chunk of the life insurance David left for her and my grandson. "Sarah, sweetie, could you come in here for a moment?" I called out, my voice tight. I tried to keep it steady, but it came out like a frayed wire. She drifted in from the living room, scrolling on her iPhone, a half smile on her face. She's pretty, with that sort of soft, unfocused look that makes you want to protect her from the world. "What's up, Helen? Did TurboTax explode?" I pointed a trembling finger at the screen. "Explain this to me. Where is this money?" She leaned over, squinting. "Oh, that? Gosh, I don't know. The bank's been so weird lately. The app is always glitching." She waved a dismissive hand, as if we were talking about a $5 ATM fee. "It's probably just a bank error. I'll call them tomorrow." A bank error. Honey. A bank error is when they accidentally charge you twice for a gallon of milk. A bank error is not when a sum of money large enough to buy a brand new Lexus evaporates into thin air. I could feel my patience, already thinner than a communion wafer, begin to crack. "Sarah," I said, my voice dropping low, "this is not a glitch. This is $50,000. This is your son's college fund. This is your future. Banks don't just misplace that kind of money." She sighed, that put-upon sigh of someone who thinks you're making a mountain out of a molehill. "Helen, please don't get worked up. It's fine. Honestly, Mark at work has been so helpful with all this stuff. He says the big banks are a mess since they moved everything online." My ears perked up. Mark. Who the hell is Mark? Just a guy from my office. He's in marketing. He's really a whiz with all the new financial apps and things. He was just showing me how to move money around to get a better interest rate with some new online thingamajig. He said it was totally secure. She said it with such breezy confidence, such utter unshakable faith in this Mark, this young buck, this snake oil salesman in a button-down shirt probably. I could already picture him. I stared at her, my mouth a thin, hard line. She was looking at me like I was the crazy one, like I was some old biddy who still balanced a checkbook and didn't understand the magical world of Zelle and Venmo. The condescension, gentle as it was, made my blood boil. All I could see was my son's face, the way he used to look at me when he knew I was right about something, but didn't want to admit it. And I saw the nest egg he'd worked so hard for, just dissolving. Sarah, sweetie, pat my shoulder. Don't you worry, I'll sort it out. Mark said he'd even help me call the bank if I needed to. He's been a lifesaver. A lifesaver, right. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my now lukewarm tea, the bitterness on my tongue matching the acid churning in my stomach. She wandered back to the couch, completely unconcerned, leaving me alone with the glowing, damning numbers on the screen. A simple bank error, she said. Just a helpful coworker, she said. But my gut, the one that's been navigating life for over 70 years, was screaming bloody murder. Could Mark be involved? Or is it truly a bank error, sweetie? Damn it all to hell. I needed air. That house felt like it was closing in on me. So I mumbled something about needing to stretch my legs and practically bolted out the door. I told her I was gonna walk down to Mrs. Henderson's to drop off that casserole dish, even though I knew perfectly well that Mrs. Henderson was in Boca Raton for the winter. Anything to get away. The air was thick with humidity, the kind that clings to you like a second skin. Atlanta in July, you know? Just lovely. As I rounded the corner onto Sarah's street, I saw them on her front porch. Her porch. The one that used to be my son's porch. There he was, Mark, leaning back in one of the rocking chairs, looking entirely too comfortable. He was younger than I thought, maybe late 20s, early 30s. Hair slicked back, teeth so white they practically glowed. And Sarah, laughing, giggling even, like some silly schoolgirl. I stopped dead in my tracks behind a scraggly azalea bush, feeling like some kind of geriatric spy. I shouldn't be spying, I know. It's not my business. But something about the way they were sitting, the way she tilted her head when she spoke to him, the easy laughter, it just didn't sit right. He reached out and brushed a stray strand of hair from her face. Just a friendly gesture, maybe. But the way she looked at him afterwards, there was something else there. Something that tightened my chest and made my knuckles ache. I wanted to march right up there and demand to know what the hell was going on. But I didn't. I couldn't. What was I gonna say? I think you're having an affair with your coworker and stealing from your bank account? I'd sound like a crazy old woman. Which, let's be honest, is probably what they already think I am. So I stood there, hidden behind the azalea bush, feeling like some kind of geriatric spy. I shouldn't be spying, I know. It's not my business. But something about the way they were sitting, the way she tilted her head when she spoke to him, the easy laughter, it just didn't sit right. He reached out and brushed a stray strand of hair from her face. Just a friendly gesture, maybe, but the way she looked at him afterwards, there was something else there. Something that tightened my chest and made my knuckles ache. I wanted to march right up there and demand to know what the hell was going on. But I didn't. I couldn't. What was I gonna say? I think you're having an affair with your coworker and stealing from your bank account? That sounds like a crazy old woman. Which, let's be honest, is probably what they already think I am. So I stood there, hidden behind the azalea bush, feeling like some kind of geriatric spy. I shouldn't be spying, I know. It's not my business. But at the same time, and maybe I was just being overly protective, it felt as if I was a part of the situation, even if just as an observer. It was like a painting that was being created right in front of me, but only I knew it was flawed. I watched them laugh some more, watched him point to something on his phone, watched her lean in closer. Finally, I forced myself to move. I couldn't stay there any longer. I turned around and walked back the way I came, my steps heavy and uneven. Lord, give me strength, I muttered under my breath. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that I was letting my imagination run wild, that I was just an overprotective mother-in-law who couldn't stand to see her son replaced. Maybe I was. Maybe I was just seeing what I wanted to see. That the image of them on that porch, the sound of their laughter, it haunted me. By the time I got back to my house, I was a nervous wreck. I poured myself another cup of tea, this time adding a generous shot of whiskey. Earl Grey and whiskey. My doctor would have a fit, but I needed something to calm my nerves. I sat on my porch swing, trying to focus on something, anything, other than Sarah and Mark. The street was quiet, except for the persistent hum of Jerry's pressure washer. Jerry, my neighbor, the retired accountant, Mr. Meticulous himself. He was out there again at this ungodly hour, blasting away at his driveway. It was barely past noon, but Jerry could start his pressure washing routine anytime between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. The man was obsessed every single day. You could set your watch by him. He'd be out there in his khaki shorts and his visor, meticulously cleaning every inch of that driveway, back and forth, like a man on a mission. A mission to have the cleanest driveway in the entire damn subdivision. He waved at me as he turned off the machine, that annoying little grin of his plastered across his face. "Afternoon, Helen, just keeping things shipshape." I forced a smile and waved back. "Afternoon, Jerry." He went back inside, leaving me to my tea and my troubled thoughts. I watched the water slowly evaporate from his pristine driveway, leaving it gleaming in the afternoon sun. It was almost hypnotic, but something was off. I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was the way he always seemed to be watching me. Or maybe it was just the fact that he spent his days obsessively cleaning his driveway. I shook my head. I was being paranoid. Jerry was just Jerry, a harmless, if somewhat obsessive old man. Or was he? Is Jerry just an early riser, or is there more to him, honey?
Well, fiddle-dee-dee, as Scarlett O'Hara would say. I decided I needed proof. More than just a bad feeling and Jerry's unsettling driveway obsession. I needed hard facts. And where do you get hard facts, honey? From the bank, of course. The next morning, bright and early, I put on my Sunday best, a floral dress that hid my arthritis surprisingly well, a strand of pearls that had been my mother's, and my sensible walking shoes. A woman of my age can't be too careful. I grabbed my purse, which had seen better days, but still held a surprising amount of essentials, and headed down to First Atlanta Bank. Now, getting information from a bank about someone else's account is like trying to pull teeth from a chicken. They're all about privacy and regulations these days. Back in my day, a friendly smile and a bit of charm could get you almost anything. Now, you need a lawyer and an act of Congress. I walked into the bank, the familiar scent of stale coffee and crisp paper filling my nostrils. The place was bustling with activity. Young families depositing checks, old-timers withdrawing cash for their weekly bingo games, and a general air of financial anxiety hanging over everything. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, doing nothing to improve my mood. I made my way to the teller line, trying to catch the eye of someone who looked pliable. You know what I mean? Someone who hadn't been completely beaten down by the soul-crushing monotony of their job. I finally got to the counter, where a young woman with bright pink hair and more piercings than I could count was staring blankly at her computer screen. "Good morning, sweetie," I said, my voice dripping with forced sweetness. "I need to inquire about a transaction on my daughter-in-law's account." She looked up, her expression unreadable. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't release any information without her explicit consent. It's bank policy." "Oh, I understand, honey." I dug into my purse for my reading glasses. "But you see, I'm helping her sort out some discrepancies. She's been having a terrible time with that new iPhone she insists on using and is sure that her information has been leaked. She's been so busy with work, bless her heart, and asked me to handle it for her." I gave her my most pitiful look,
the one that usually works wonders on waiters and young men who don't offer me a seat on the bus. The teller remained unmoved. "I'm still not authorized to release any information, ma'am. I can, however, give you a form for her to fill out authorizing you to access her account." Damn it. I sighed dramatically. "Oh, well, that's just going to take forever. She's traveling for work, you see. California, I think. Something with computers. I swear, these young people and their gadgets." I paused, pretending to rummage through my purse again. Perhaps there's someone else I could speak with. Someone with a bit more flexibility? The teller hesitated, glancing around nervously. "Well, there's Mark. He's new, but he's very eager to help. He's over at that desk by the window." She pointed to a young man who looked like he was barely out of high school. He was fiddling with a pen, looking utterly lost. Perfect. "Thank you, sweetie," I said, giving her a warm smile. "You've been a doll." I made my way over to Mark's desk, my heart pounding in my chest. This was my chance. "Good morning, young man," I said, flashing him a warm smile. "I'm Helen Parker, and I'm in a bit of a pickle." He looked up, startled. "Good morning, Mrs. Parker. How can I help you?" I launched into my story again, embellishing it with a few more details about Sarah's computer troubles and my own limited understanding of modern technology. I even threw in a sob story about how I just wanted to protect my family. Mark listened patiently, his brow furrowed with concern. He was a good kid, I could tell. Naive, maybe, but good. He said, "I understand your concern, Mrs. Parker, but I'm really not supposed to access account information without authorization." "Oh, I know, honey." I reached across the desk and patted his hand. "I wouldn't ask you to do anything that would get you in trouble. I just need a little confirmation, that's all." I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. My daughter-in-law mentioned a rather large withdrawal recently, around $50,000. I just need to know if that rings a bell. I'm worried she might have been scammed. Mark hesitated, his eyes darting around the room. He was clearly conflicted. I really shouldn't," he stammered. "Please, honey," I pleaded, "just a quick peek. It would put my mind at ease." He took a deep breath and typed something into his computer. His fingers flew across the keyboard, and I held my breath, waiting. Finally, he stopped and looked up at me, his face pale. "There was a withdrawal for that amount, Mrs. Parker, a few weeks ago." My stomach dropped. $50,000. Gone. Just like that. I forced myself to remain calm. "Thank you, Mark," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You've been a great help." I stood up, my legs feeling weak. I needed to process this. $50,000. It was a fortune. What on earth was Sarah doing? I thanked Mark again and slowly made my way out of the bank, the weight of my suspicions pressing down on me. "So now what, sweetie? Does the withdrawal confirm my suspicions about Jerry, or is there another explanation?"
"Well, hellfire," I muttered to myself, slamming the front door shut a little harder than necessary. The scent of Earl Grey, usually so soothing, now just felt mocking. $50,000. It was more than my entire Social Security check for 2 years. Back in my day, you worked hard for every penny. You saved. You didn't just withdraw it like it was pocket change. I knew Sarah and Tom weren't exactly hurting for money, but $50,000 was a damn fortune to throw away. I needed to understand why. First things first, though. Mark, that young buck at the bank. Something about the way he stammered, the way his eyes kept darting around, it didn't sit right. He was too eager to help, then too hesitant. I decided to do a little digging. I went straight to my trusty computer. It's an old dinosaur, bless its heart, but it gets the job done. My fingers, stiff with arthritis, pecked out Mark Peterson, Wells Fargo, Atlanta into the search bar. It didn't take long. A few clicks, and I was staring at a forum dedicated to, let's just say, less than satisfied Wells Fargo customers. There were several complaints mentioning a Mark P and unusual account activity. One woman claimed he'd suggested she move her investments into a higher risk fund, promising huge returns that never materialized. Another said he'd pushed her into a credit card with a ridiculous interest rate. And here's the kicker, sweetie. A few mentioned he'd been investigated internally, but somehow he always managed to keep his job. Manipulator, that's what he was. A snake oil salesman in a crisp, clean suit. And Sarah, bless her heart, seemed like the perfect target. Successful, but maybe a little naive when it came to finances. Rage, a cold, bubbling rage started to simmer in my gut. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about someone preying on my family. I had to warn Sarah. I grabbed my iPhone. Yes, even an old broad like me has one of those fancy contraptions, and dialed Sarah's number. It rang and rang, finally going to voicemail. Sarah, honey, it's Helen. Call me. It's urgent. I paced around my living room, the oriental rug a familiar comfort beneath my feet. I remembered when George and I bought that rug. It was expensive, a real investment. We took care of it. Unlike some people taking care of their damn money. I picked up the remote and switched on the TV, but the mindless chatter of some daytime talk show did nothing to soothe my frayed nerves. Finally, my phone buzzed. Hey, Helen, what's up? I'm at work. Sarah, I need you to come over. Now. It's important. Mom, I can't just leave work. What's going on? It's about the money, Sarah. The $50,000. There was a pause. A long, pregnant pause. How do you know about that? She finally asked, her voice tight. I found out, and I found out some other things too. About your... I hesitated, searching for the right word. Friend at work. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice rising. What did you do, Helen? I just want to talk to you, Sarah. Please. Just come over. Fine, she said, her voice laced with annoyance, but I can only stay for an hour. I've got a million things to do. A million things to do? Like what? Give away all her money? An hour later, Sarah stormed into my house, her face flushed. She was wearing a crisp navy blue suit, the kind that cost more than I used to make in a month. Okay, Helen, I'm here. What is this all about? I took a deep breath. I went to the bank, Sarah. You went to the bank? Why? I asked about the withdrawal, and I spoke to a young man named Mark Peterson. Sarah's eyes narrowed. And I looked him up online. Sarah, there are complaints against him. People saying he manipulated them, pushed them into bad investments. I think he's targeting you. Sarah threw her head back and laughed, a harsh, brittle laugh. You're being ridiculous, Helen. Mark is a friend. He's just trying to help me with my finances. Help you? By taking $50,000? It's not like that. He's helping me invest it. It's going to grow, Helen. I'm going to make more money. Sarah, sweetie, that's what they all say. These con men, they're smooth talkers. They know how to play on people's fears and desires. He's taking advantage of you. No, he's not. You're just jealous, Helen. You're always trying to control me. You can't stand the fact that I'm successful and you're stuck here in this museum.
She gestured around my living room, her nose wrinkled in distaste. Her words stung, more than I cared to admit. "Sarah, that's not fair. I'm just worried about you." "Well, don't be. I can take care of myself. I don't need you meddling in my life." She turned to leave. "I'm done with this. You're being paranoid, Helen, just like always." "Sarah!" I shouted after her, my voice cracking. "Please, just be careful." She didn't even turn around. The door slammed shut behind me, leaving me standing there, alone with my fear and my Earl Grey tea. Can I convince Sarah of Mark's true nature? Or is Sarah already under his spell, honey?
Well, crap. That's all I could think as I watched her tail lights disappear down the street. The gall of that girl, calling my home a museum. Honey, this museum has seen more life and love than she probably ever will. I stewed for a good hour, sipping my now cold Earl Grey. The quiet in the house was deafening. Just the tick-tock of the grandfather clock and the low hum of the refrigerator. It used to be a comfort, this peace. Now it just amplified my worry. I knew I couldn't just sit here and do nothing. Sarah was blinded by what? Greed? Infatuation? Whatever it was, this Mark had her wrapped around his little finger. I had to find a way to prove it. Then it hit me. Eavesdropping. Plain and simple. I needed to hear what they were saying when I wasn't around. See if I could catch him in a lie, a contradiction, something. Now, I know what you're thinking. Helen Parker, snooping? Back in my day, we respected privacy. But desperate times, sweetie, desperate times. And besides, I wasn't about to let some smooth-talking charlatan steal my son's inheritance. I started brainstorming. How could I bug her house without her knowing? That was out. Too risky. She'd find it for sure. But what if I could catch them talking outside? The porch. That's where they always sat when he came over. Sipping iced tea, laughing, whispering, God knows what. If I could plant something out there... The next morning, I was on a mission. I drove down to that fancy technology store near the mall. The one that caters to all those young whippersnappers with their iPhones and their Zelle accounts. I felt a bit out of place, I won't lie. All those flashing screens and complicated gadgets. But I knew what I wanted. I cornered a young man with a carefully sculpted beard and explained my situation. Or at least a version of my situation. I told him I wanted to record the birds in my garden, but needed something with a really good microphone. He smirked. Like he knew exactly what I was up to. Probably figured I was trying to catch my husband cheating. These young bucks think they know everything. Anyway, he led me to this contraption, a bird feeder. But not just any bird feeder, honey. This thing was high-tech. It had a built-in high-definition microphone, motion sensors, and a digital recorder that could store weeks of audio. It even connected to Wi-Fi, so I could access the recordings from my phone. "It's voice-activated, ma'am," the young man explained, trying not to sound condescending. "It'll only record when there's sound." Perfect! It cost me a pretty penny, almost $500, more than I spend on groceries in a month. But if it saved Sarah from losing everything, it would be worth it. I swallowed hard and swiped my debit card. Thank goodness for my fixed income, you know? Getting it set up was a nightmare. I had to download some app, connect it to my Wi-Fi, which, thank you very much, I managed to do all by myself, and figure out how to camouflage the darn thing. I finally settled on hanging it from the branch of the old oak tree near the porch. It looked innocent enough, just a slightly oversized, strangely shaped bird feeder. Hopefully Sarah wouldn't notice. For the next week, I became a woman obsessed. Every morning I'd get up before dawn, make myself a cup of Earl Grey, and sneak onto the porch with my iPhone. I'd sit there, huddled in my robe, listening to the recordings. And what did I hear? Nothing. Well, not nothing. I heard birds chirping, squirrels chattering, the occasional car driving by, And much to my annoyance, my neighbor Jerry pressure washing his driveway at 6 in the morning. That man and his spotless concrete, I swear he must have shares in the local power washing company. That phantom factor was really driving me nuts. But no Sarah, no Mark, no incriminating conversations. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe Mark really was just a friend helping Sarah with her investments. Maybe I was just an old woman stuck in her ways, interfering where I shouldn't. But then, a small part of me, the part that had spent years balancing checkbooks and sniffing out accounting errors, refused to give up. Something wasn't right. I could feel it in my bones. So I kept listening, hoping, praying. Will her eavesdropping reveal anything? Or is she wasting her time, sweetie?
Lord, give me strength. That's what I needed, and needed badly, because after a week of listening to Jerry and his infernal power washer, bless his heart, I hope he sleeps well at night knowing he nearly drove me mad, I knew I had to change tactics. I couldn't rely on being a tech-savvy spy. I was Helen Parker, former accountant, and I knew how to follow a paper trail. Or, in this case, a digital one. The next morning, bright and early, I marched myself down to the bank. Not Sarah's bank, mind you. Oh no, I went to my bank, the one I'd been with since before they had ATMs, before they even dreamed of online banking. I walked right up to Mrs. Henderson, who'd known me since I opened my first savings account when I was just a slip of a girl, and I asked her for a referral. "Mrs. Henderson," I said, my voice as steady as I could manage, "I need a forensic accountant, someone discreet, someone who can find money even the IRS can't." Mrs. Henderson, bless her soul, didn't bat an eye. She knew me too well to ask questions. She simply reached under the counter, pulled out a business card, and handed it to me with a knowing look. "This is Mr. Abernathy. He's thorough." Thorough? That was an understatement. Mr. Abernathy looked like a bulldog in a tweed suit. He didn't smile, he didn't make small talk, he just listened, and then he asked questions that made my head spin. He wanted copies of Sarah's bank statements, which I confess I borrowed from her desk when she was at work, her investment portfolios, even her credit card bills. I felt like I was betraying my own flesh and blood. But honey, $50,000 doesn't just vanish into thin air. It took him 2 weeks. 2 weeks of me pacing my house, drinking endless cups of Earl Grey, and jumping every time the phone rang. 2 weeks of Jerry happily power washing every square inch of his property, I swear. Finally, Mr. Abernathy called. His voice was as dry as the Sahara. "Mrs. Parker," he said, "I've traced the funds." My heart leaped into my throat. And the money was transferred out of Mrs. Parker's account in several installments, relatively small amounts, designed not to trigger any alarms. Clever in a way. "And where did it go?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "To an offshore account, Mrs. Parker, in the Cayman Islands." The Cayman Islands? My knees went weak. I sank into my favorite armchair. Offshore? But why? The account is virtually untraceable. It's been layered through shell corporations and holding companies. Whoever set this up knew what they were doing. I felt a cold dread wash over me. This wasn't just some simple mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. This was planned. "So, the money's gone?" I managed to ask, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. Mr. Abernathy cleared his throat. "Not necessarily. These things can be unraveled. But it takes time and money, Mrs. Parker, a considerable amount of money." He then proceeded to give me a quote that nearly sent me into cardiac arrest. It was more than my annual Social Security check. I politely thanked him, hung up the phone, and stared out the window at my perfectly manicured lawn.
$50,000 gone, vanished into the ether. My blood ran cold. Sarah, my sweet, trusting Sarah, had been robbed blind, and someone she knew, someone she trusted, was behind it. I thought about Mark, the smarmy way he looked at me, his constant hovering around Sarah, the way he always seemed to be just a little too helpful, a little too charming. Could he really be capable of something like this? I had to find out. I had to protect my son's family, even if it meant going to war with a snake oil salesman in a Brooks Brothers suit. This wasn't just about money anymore, honey. This was about betrayal. This was about protecting my family. And Helen Parker, despite her arthritis and her love of Earl Grey tea, was not one to be trifled with when it came to her family. Not now, not ever. Had the money vanished for good, honey?
Lord, give me strength. I knew I couldn't just barrel into this like some crazed detective, waving my checkbook and demanding answers. Mark was slick. He was watching. So I decided to play a part that I hoped he'd underestimate, the confused, forgetful old lady. The next time Mark came over for dinner, and he was over at least twice a week, always sniffing around Sarah like a hound dog, I put on my best performance. I intentionally misplaced my reading glasses, asking Sarah to help me find them, even though they were perched right on my head. "Oh, sweetie, have you seen my glasses? I can't seem to remember where I put them. It's this darn arthritis medication, you know? Makes me a little foggy," I chuckled, trying to sound frail and dotty. Mark, bless his heart, or maybe damn it, just smiled that smarmy smile of his. "Don't worry, Helen, we all have those days. Sarah, maybe you should help your mother-in-law keep better track of her things." Sarah shot me a look that said, "Mom, what are you doing?" But I just winked at her when Mark wasn't looking. Later, after dinner, I brought up the subject of my finances, again feigning confusion. "Now, Mark, you're so good with numbers, maybe you could explain something to me. I've been having the hardest time balancing my checkbook. It's all these new apps they have now, Zelle and all that nonsense. Back in my day, we just wrote a check and that was that." Mark's eyes gleamed. He leaned forward like a vulture spotting roadkill. "Of course, Helen, I'd be happy to help. You know, Sarah mentioned you might be having some trouble keeping up with things around the house, too. Maybe we should look into getting you some help, someone to come in a few hours a week." My blood simmered. So that's how he was playing it. Not only was he trying to steal Sarah's money, but he was trying to isolate me, to make me seem incapable so he could control the situation even further. The nerve of that young buck. I batted my eyelashes at him, pretending to be utterly clueless. "Oh, Mark, you're so thoughtful of you, but I'm perfectly fine. Just a little forgetful sometimes. Now, where did I put that statement from Wells Fargo? I swear I had it just a minute ago." I rummaged through a pile of papers on the coffee table, conveniently knocking over a vase of flowers in the process. Oops! Oh dear, I'm so clumsy these days. Sarah rushed to clean up the mess, shooting me another worried look. Mark just watched, a subtle smirk playing on his lips. The next day, I decided to push things a little further. I called Sarah at work, pretending I couldn't remember how to use my iPhone. "Sarah, honey, it's me. I can't seem to make a phone call. This darn thing just keeps showing me that silly weather app. Back in my day, we had rotary phones, and damn, those were easy. Are you sure this iPhone is working?" I could hear the exasperation in her voice. "Mom, you just swipe up to close the app. I showed you how to do that yesterday. Are you sure you're feeling all right?" "Oh, I'm fine, sweetie. Just a little scatterbrained. Maybe I need more Earl Grey tea." Later that week, Mark suggested to Sarah, within my earshot, that maybe I should consider assisted living. "Helen, you know, there are some wonderful places nearby. They take care of everything. You wouldn't have to worry about a thing." The idea hung in the air like a bad smell. Sarah looked horrified. I just smiled weakly and said, "Oh, Mark, you're so sweet to worry about me, but I'm perfectly happy here in my own home. Besides, who would water my petunias? I pointed to the phantom flowers on the porch. I was playing the fool, that was for sure. But was it working? Was Mark buying my act, or was he just playing along, waiting for the opportune moment to strike again? Lord, give me strength. I'd had enough of the charade. The next day, after Mark's little assisted living suggestion, I decided it was time to stop playing Miss Daisy and show my hand. I waited until Sarah was at work. That young buck never left my Sarah alone. He followed her everywhere. After Sarah left for work, I found Mark in the garden, pretending to prune my roses. My phantom roses. He hacked at them with such vigor, I swear I saw him wince. "Mark, dear," I said, my voice dripping with false sweetness, "can we have a little chat? Inside?" He turned, a picture of innocent surprise. "Of course, Helen. Anything for you." He even had the nerve to pat my hand. Snake oil salesman, I tell you. I led him into the living room and settled into my favorite armchair, the one I'd had reupholstered after George passed. He perched on the edge of the sofa, all nervous energy. "Mark," I started, "I've been doing some thinking." He just smiled, that condescending little smirk that made my arthritis flare up just looking at it. "Thinking about what, Helen? The lovely assisted living facilities nearby?" "Thinking about you mostly, honey. And Sarah, and her bank account at Wells Fargo." His eyes flickered just for a second, but I saw it. I reached into my purse and pulled out my old cassette player. Yes, a cassette player. Back in my day, we didn't trust those newfangled digital things. Plus, this baby was the only way I could make the recording I needed. "I've been doing a little recording, Mark. You know, for posterity, to remember all our lovely chats." His face paled. He knew damned well what was coming. I pressed play. The hiss of the tape filled the room, followed by my voice, pretending to be confused about Zelle and online banking. Then Mark's voice, smooth as butter, guiding Sarah through some simple transactions. "Now, Sarah, you just transfer $5,000 to this account. It's a business associate. Strictly confidential, you understand. He will pay you back, sweetheart, with interest. I promise you. Trust me, darling." There it was. Clear as day. Manipulation, plain and simple. And then, a later recording. One I'd made just a few days ago when he thought I was napping. "The old bat is getting suspicious, isn't she?" Mark's voice said, a sneer evident even on the tape. "But don't worry, I've got it all handled. 50,000 gone, and she'll never know. She is incompetent, after all." I looked up at Mark, my eyes blazing. "You son of a bitch, you stole from my Sarah. You manipulated her, used her kindness against her." He didn't even flinch. He just laughed, a cold, cruel laugh that sent shivers down my spine. "Very clever, Helen," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Very clever indeed. But you're forgetting one thing." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. He waved it in the air like a victory flag. "I anticipated your little recording scheme, Helen. I knew you were playing me. That's why I took the liberty of obtaining a court order. Just this morning, in fact." He tossed the paper onto the coffee table. I snatched it up, my hands trembling. It was a court order, all right, declaring me legally incompetent based on erratic behavior and diminished mental capacity. Signed, sealed, and delivered. "You see, Helen," Mark continued, his voice sickeningly sweet, "any evidence you gather, any recordings you make are inadmissible in court. You are deemed unreliable, a crazy old woman. No one will believe you." He stood up, towering over me, his eyes filled with triumph. "I admire your spirit, Helen, I truly do. But you're playing a game you can't win. You're out of your depth." He turned to leave, a smug smile on his face. He paused at the door and looked back at me. "Perhaps you should consider that assisted living after all, Helen, darling." He walked out, leaving me alone in the living room.
the cassette player still hissing, the court order mocking me on the coffee table. Damn it all to hell. Is this the end of the line? Or does Helen have another trick up her sleeve? Honey?
Lord have mercy. I wasn't about to let some young buck with a manufactured court order scare me into shuffling off to some bingo hall and early bird special. No, honey, not me. I may be 72, and my arthritis might sing arias in the morning, but my brain is still sharper than a tack. So, I did what any self-respecting, wronged woman would do. I lawyered up. Found myself a young, hungry lawyer named Miss Davies. Reminded me of myself back in my day, all fire and brimstone. She listened, really listened to the recording, read the court order, and her eyes narrowed like a hawk. "She can't do this, Mrs. Parker," she said, her voice tight with anger. "We're going to fight this, and we're going to win." The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. 2 weeks of sleepless nights, endless cups of Earl Grey, and enough nervous energy to power the whole damn city of Atlanta. Miss Davies was a whirlwind, filing motions, gathering evidence. I felt like I was back in the trenches, except this time the battlefield was a sterile courtroom, and my weapon was, well, I wasn't sure what my weapon was exactly. The day arrived, gray and drizzly, mirroring the knot of anxiety in my stomach. The courthouse smelled of old paper, stale coffee, and barely concealed ambition. I could practically taste it. Miss Davies gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. "We've got this, Mrs. Parker. Just stick to the plan." I nodded, trying to project an air of confidence I certainly didn't feel. Mark was already there, sitting smugly at a table, his lawyer, a shark in a tailored suit, beside him. Sarah wasn't there, and that worried me sick. Where was my girl? The hearing began. Mark's lawyer presented his case, all smooth words and carefully crafted arguments. He painted me as a senile old woman, prone to delusions and irrational behavior. He even brought up that incident last summer when I got lost trying to find a new supermarket and ended up 30 miles away. Damn GPS set me on a wild goose chase and everyone acts like I lost my marbles. Then it was Miss Davies' turn. She was a force of nature. She systematically dismantled their arguments point by point. She presented character witnesses, my neighbors, my friends from the book club, all testifying to my mental acuity and unwavering sense of right and wrong. The climax came when Miss Davies presented the signed affidavit from Sarah. I had spent days convincing my daughter-in-law to sign it, to acknowledge that Mark had coerced her into signing the power of attorney, that she was under extreme emotional distress at the time, that she never truly intended to give him control over her finances. I watched Mark's face as Miss Davies read the affidavit aloud. The smugness melted away, replaced with a flicker of something panic. Hope flared in my chest. We were winning. "Objection, Your Honor," Mark's lawyer barked, rising to his feet. "This affidavit is irrelevant. We have a subsequent, legally binding document granting Mr. Thompson full power of attorney, signed and notarized by Miss Miller." He produced the document with a flourish. A second power of attorney. My heart plummeted. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Miss Davies examined the document, her brow furrowed. It looked legitimate. Sarah's signature, the notary seal, everything was in order. "Your Honor," Mark's lawyer continued, his voice dripping with triumph, "this document supersedes any previous claims. It clearly demonstrates Miss Miller's intent to grant Mr. Thompson power of attorney." I felt dizzy, disoriented. Had I been wrong about Mark all along? Had Sarah willingly given him control? The thought was unbearable. Miss Davies turned to me, her eyes searching. "Mrs. Parker, did you know about this second document?" I shook my head, speechless. I didn't. Sarah hadn't told me. Mark watched me, a cruel smile playing on his lips. He thought he'd won. He thought he'd outsmarted me. But I wasn't done yet, sweetie. Not by a long shot.
I remembered Sarah mentioning that Mark was always on his phone, constantly checking some stock tracking app, and that he was always complaining about these constant software updates that would make the system slow down. Can I disprove the second document, or has Mark outmaneuvered me completely, sweetie?
Damn it all. I felt the blood drain from my face. Miss Davies, bless her heart, looked at me with a sympathy that felt almost worse than Mark's snug grin. "Mrs. Parker," she said gently, "are you saying you were unaware that your daughter-in-law signed a subsequent power of attorney?" My voice caught in my throat. "No, Your Honor, I wasn't." The room seemed to tilt. All the preparation, all the late nights poring over bank statements and legal documents, all the hope I'd clung to, it all seemed to be crumbling around me. "And you are certain," Miss Davies pressed, her voice losing some of its warmth, "that Sarah was of sound mind when she supposedly signed this document?" "Absolutely!" I practically shouted, then quickly lowered my voice. "Sarah might have been vulnerable, but she wasn't incompetent. Not then." Mark's lawyer, that young buck, practically vibrated with self-importance. "Your Honor," he interjected, "Miss Parker's testimony is clearly biased and unreliable. We have a notarized document signed by Miss Miller granting Mr. Thompson full and unconditional power of attorney. The matter is settled." Miss Davies sighed, a sound that echoed like a death knell in the small courtroom. "Mrs. Parker, I understand your concerns, but the court must rely on documented evidence unless you have something to refute the validity of this document." I looked around the room, desperate. My gaze landed on David, my son, his face a mask of worry. He wanted to help, I knew, but he was as blindsided as I was. He's always been too trusting, that boy. "Your Honor," I said, my voice trembling slightly, I believe there may be undue influence at play here. Mark, Mr. Thompson, he manipulated Sarah. He isolated her from her family and friends. Objection, Mark's lawyer bellowed again. "Speculation. Miss Parker is offering conjecture, not evidence." Miss Davies frowned. "Mrs. Parker, you need to present concrete evidence to support your claims." But I don't have anything concrete right now." My heart hammered against my ribs. I could feel the weight of their skepticism, their dismissal. "Except for all that money he took." Miss Davies sighed again, a longer, more weary sound this time. "Mrs. Parker, the court finds that in light of the presented power of attorney, you are not the appropriate party to represent Miss Miller's interests at this time." My ears rang. I felt like I was underwater, struggling to surface. What does that mean?" "It means," she said softly, "that the court cannot recognize your authority to act on Miss Miller's behalf. Mr. Thompson is the legal representative." I stared at her, dumbfounded. All my work, all my plans, all my fight, for nothing? Mark was practically beaming now, a smug, self-satisfied smirk plastered across his face. He thought he'd won. He knew he'd won. But then he opened his mouth again, and that's when things went from bad to downright catastrophic. "Your Honor," he said, his voice dripping with false sincerity, "Miss Miller has made the decision to transfer all of her assets to me, including the house." The air in the courtroom seemed to thicken, to become heavy and suffocating. My breath hitched in my chest. He'd done what? The house? Sarah's childhood home? The only thing she had left? David gasped beside me, his face paling. I could feel his shock, his disbelief. "She signed the papers just last week," he continued, his voice smooth as silk. "All legally documented, of course. She wanted me to have everything. She trusts me implicitly." He paused, looking directly at me, his eyes glinting with malicious triumph. "She knows I'll take care of everything for her better than anyone else could." The room started to spin. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to anchor myself. He had stolen everything. My son-in-law, a man I had welcomed into my family, had systematically, coldly, and deliberately stolen everything from my Sarah, all under the guise of caring for her and loving her. He saw her vulnerability, he saw her kindness, and he used it against her. He was a predator, a parasite, feeding off her pain and her misfortune. My hands clenched into fists. I looked at him, at his smug face, at his gleaming eyes, and something inside me snapped. The fear, the doubt, the helplessness, it all coalesced into a burning rage. But what could I do? He had the documents, the legal authority, the backing of the court. Had he won, honey? Is it game over? Or could the information Sarah had given me about his phone, the stock tracking app, and the software updates be the key to unlocking the truth? Has Mark won? Or is there still hope, honey?
Lord have mercy. Did you ever have that feeling, sweeties, where the ground just disappears from under you, like you're standing on thin air and you're about to plunge into the abyss? That's exactly how I felt right then and there, staring at that snake oil salesman, Mark. He actually smirked. The nerve of that young buck. Back in my day, we respected our elders. We respected families. This was something else entirely. He was waiting for my reaction. I could see it in his eyes. He thought he'd won. He thought he'd broken me. He probably thought an old woman like me on a fixed income wouldn't have the resources or the fight to challenge him. He'd probably calculated that into his twisted little equation. But he underestimated me, honey. He underestimated the love I have for my family. Legally documented, he'd said. Well, legally documented or not, I knew in my heart this was wrong. Deeply, fundamentally wrong. Sarah, my sweet Sarah, in her right mind, would never, ever sign over her childhood home to this parasite. Never. The house was everything to her. It was her memories, her roots, her safe place. It was where she learned to ride her bike, where she scraped her knees, where she cried after her first heartbreak. It was where David and I watched her grow into the beautiful, kind woman she was. And this leech had taken it all away. I looked at Sarah. She was sitting beside him, her eyes glazed over. She was pale and vacant, like a porcelain doll with the stuffing ripped out. She didn't react, didn't say a word. It was like she was in a trance, completely under his control. "Sarah, honey," I said, my voice trembling despite my best efforts. "Do you understand what Mark is saying? Do you understand what you've done?" She turned to me, her eyes unfocused. "Mark is taking care of me, Helen," she said, her voice flat and lifeless. "He's the only one who understands." My heart shattered. He'd brainwashed her. He'd poisoned her mind with his lies and manipulations. He had isolated her from her family, from her friends, from everyone who truly cared about her. I wanted to scream, to rip him apart, to claw his eyes out, but I knew I couldn't, not yet. I had to stay calm. I had to think clearly. I had to find a way to break through to Sarah, to wake her up from this nightmare. David was beside me, his hand gripping mine so tight my knuckles ached. I could feel his anger, his frustration, mirroring my own. He wanted to lash out, to protect his sister, but he knew we had to tread carefully. One wrong move and we could lose her completely. "Mark," I said, forcing a calmness I didn't feel. "Sarah told me something the other day. She was confused, but she mentioned something about an app on your phone, something about tracking stock prices, and she said you'd been doing a lot of software updates on your phone. Seemed odd to her. Can you explain that, sweetie?" I watched his face carefully. A flicker of something crossed his features.
Was it surprise? Annoyance? Fear? It was gone so quickly I couldn't be sure. "Sarah is confused, Helen," he said smoothly. "She's not thinking clearly. She probably misunderstood something. I use my phone for work, that's all. And as for updates, well, everyone updates their software, don't they? You know how these iPhones are, always bugging you with notifications." He was lying. I knew it in my bones. But how could I prove it? It was just a vague memory Sarah had shared with me, a tiny detail in a sea of chaos. A detail I'd nearly dismissed myself as the ramblings of a confused woman. But now I clung to it like a lifeline. Maybe, just maybe, it was the key to unlocking the truth. He thinks he's won, doesn't he? With his legally documented papers and his manipulative charm. He thinks he's outsmarted an old woman. He thinks he's untouchable. But I'm not giving up, honey. Not now, not ever. I'll be damned if I let this con man steal everything my family has worked for. I've seen things in my 72 years, sweetie. I've seen people like Mark come and go. And I know one thing for sure. Karma is a real bitch. I smiled sweetly at him, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Well, Mark," I said, "I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation for everything. But I think it's time we all went home. Sarah needs to rest, and I need a cup of Earl Grey. It calms my nerves, you know." I stood up, pulling David with me. "Come on, sweetie," I said to Sarah, taking her hand. Her hand was cold and clammy in mine. She seemed hesitant, unsure of what to do. Mark stood up as well, his eyes narrowed. "I'll take care of Sarah, Helen," he said. "She's safe with me." "I appreciate that, Mark," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "But I think it's time for a little family time. Don't you agree, Sarah?" Sarah looked at me, her eyes still glazed, but I thought I saw a flicker of recognition in them, a tiny spark of the woman I knew and loved. She nodded slowly. "Yes," she whispered, "I want to go home." We walked out of that courtroom, leaving Mark standing there with a smug look on his face. He thought he had everything under control. He thought he had won. But as I looked back at that house, the house that was once my daughter-in-law's and now legally his, I couldn't help but wonder, is this the end, honey? Is my world collapsing around me, or is there a glimmer of hope, sweetie?
Damn it all to hell. I sat there on my porch swing, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across my meticulously kept lawn. Even the petunias seemed to droop, mirroring my own despair. The air hung heavy with the scent of honeysuckle and defeat. It was a scent I hadn't encountered this strongly since my dear George passed. $50,000. Gone. And a man, that snake oil salesman Mark, had slithered his way into my family's lives, poisoning everything he touched. He had Sarah convinced he was her savior when he was nothing more than a parasite. I could practically taste the bitter bile rising in my throat. David was inside, bless his heart, trying to comfort Sarah. But Sarah was a shell. The vibrant, independent woman I knew was buried deep, suffocated by Mark's manipulation. I'd watched her confidence slowly erode over the past few months, chalking it up to stress at work, not realizing the insidious game Mark was playing. The worst part was I should have seen it coming. Maybe I'm getting too old, too trusting. Maybe my brain is starting to turn to mush like overcooked grits. I closed my eyes, the rhythmic creak of the swing a mournful soundtrack to my thoughts. I felt so helpless. Was this it? Was I really going to stand by and watch everything my family had built crumble because of one bastard? Suddenly, the sharp whir of a pressure washer sliced through my misery. I opened my eyes. Jerry, my neighbor, was at it again. Jerry, bless his obsessive little heart, was washing his driveway.
again. Now, Jerry's a good man, don't get me wrong. Widower like myself. Quiet, keeps to himself. But his driveway? Honey, that driveway is cleaner than most operating rooms. He washes it every Tuesday and Saturday without fail, rain or shine. He uses that pressure washer like a surgeon wields a scalpel, methodically blasting away every speck of dirt and grime. I swear that driveway is probably sterile. I watched him for a few minutes, the relentless whir grating on my already frayed nerves. He was wearing his usual uniform, pristine white tennis shoes, khaki shorts that hit just above the knee, and a tucked-in polo shirt. The man even had a little visor to protect his eyes from the sun's glare. Back in my day, that was considered old-fashioned. He moved with slow, deliberate precision, overlapping each pass with the pressure washer by exactly 2 inches. I knew this because I'd watched him do it countless times. The man was a machine. A clean machine, but a machine nonetheless. He even had that little brush attachment for getting into the grout lines. I swear he probably flosses his driveway. The whole neighborhood jokes about it. My George used to say Jerry probably alphabetized his spice rack too. Watching him now, however, something shifted. Something about that relentless precision, that unwavering attention to detail, flickered a light bulb in my brain. It was stupid, probably, desperate even, but the way Jerry approached his driveway, the systematic way he eliminated every imperfection, reminded me of something. I frowned, trying to grasp the elusive thought. What was it about Jerry's compulsive cleaning that felt familiar, that resonated with the pit in my stomach? Maybe it was the meticulousness. Maybe it was the fact that he documented everything. I recall the last time I brought him cookies, he was writing in a little notebook. When I asked what he was doing, he said he was logging his daily water usage. I shrugged it off then. Or maybe I'm just clutching at straws, honey. Maybe I'm so desperate for a solution, for a way out of this nightmare that I'm seeing patterns where there are none. Maybe Jerry and his damn driveway have nothing to do with Mark and his scheme. But what if? What if there was something in Jerry's peculiar habits, something in his methodical approach that could help me unravel Mark's web of lies? What if that little notebook of his has a clue? What if I'm missing something obvious because I'm too busy feeling sorry for myself? I stood up, the swing creaking in protest. My arthritis flared in my left knee, a sharp reminder of my age, my limitations. But I ignored it. I had a hunch, a tiny spark of hope, and I wasn't about to let it flicker out. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and started walking towards Jerry and his immaculate driveway. I had questions, and honey, I intended to get some answers. What does Jerry's meticulousness have to do with anything? Or is Helen grasping at straws?
Damn, the sun was hot on my neck. As I walked toward Jerry's, the smell of freshly cut grass, too freshly cut, hung heavy in the air. It was like walking into a damn air freshener factory. That sickly, sweet, artificial smell. Ugh. Anyway, I wasn't just walking over there to chat about his lawn care routine, though Lord knows he'd probably be happy to oblige. No, I was going over there to ask a favor. A big one. I stopped at the edge of his driveway, the perfectly swept concrete practically gleaming. He was on his knees, meticulously scrubbing at a tiny stain near the garage door. I swear, he probably had a magnifying glass out there somewhere. "Jerry?" I called out, my voice a little shaky. He looked up, his face creased with a polite smile. "Helen, what a pleasant surprise. Come on over, come on over." I hesitated. "I don't want to interrupt." Nonsense. I was just admiring my handiwork." He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Can I get you some lemonade, Helen?
I just made a batch. No thank you, Jerry. I actually wanted to ask you something. I took a deep breath, trying to tamp down the anxiety bubbling in my chest. This felt like my last shot, honey. He stood up, brushing off his knees with a briskness that bordered on obsessive. Of course. What can I do for you? I paused, suddenly feeling foolish. What was I even thinking? Jerry was a nice man, a little quirky, sure, but he wasn't some kind of miracle worker. And what made me think he'd want to get involved in my mess? I mean, who would? It's probably nothing, I mumbled, starting to back away. I'm sorry to bother you. Helen, dear, what is it? You look like you've seen a ghost. His brow furrowed with concern. Are you all right? I sighed. It's about Mark, about what he did to Sarah. Jerry's expression hardened. He might be meticulous about his lawn, but he wasn't stupid. He knew something was up. Everyone in the neighborhood did. I thought as much, he said quietly. That young buck always gave me the creeps. What's happened now? I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. He had Sarah sign a notarized document. It basically gave him access to a lot of her money. And now she's lost a fortune. Jerry listened intently. His eyes narrowed, his lips pressed into a thin line. I was just thinking, remember that day I brought you cookies and you were writing in your little notebook? I asked, feeling like an idiot. Logging my water usage, he confirmed, with a hint of amusement in his voice. Right, well, you mentioned something about being a forensic document examiner or something like that before you retired? And I was just wondering, I mean, I know it's a long shot and it's probably too much to ask, but would you be willing to take a look at this document? Maybe see if there's anything suspicious about it? I held my breath, waiting for his answer. I could see the wheels turning in his head, the calculations being made. He was a private man, Jerry. He valued his peace and quiet. Getting involved in something like this was bound to disrupt his routine. I rushed on, trying to convince him, and myself, that this wasn't a crazy idea. I know it's a lot to ask, and I understand if you don't want to get involved, but I'm desperate, Jerry. Sarah's devastated, and I don't know where else to turn. I just thought, maybe your expertise could help. Maybe you could see something that I'm missing. He stood there for a long moment, his gaze fixed on something beyond me, perhaps on some memory of his past life, his past career. The weight of his silence was almost unbearable. The cicadas were buzzing loudly, mocking me. Finally, he sighed, a deep, weary sound. Helen, you know I care about you, and I certainly care about Sarah, but I haven't touched a document in years. My eyes aren't what they used to be. My equipment's probably outdated. It would be a lot of work, sweetie. My heart sank. I knew it. I just knew it. This was it. This was the end of the line. I understand, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Thank you anyway, Jerry. I'm sorry to bother you. But, he stopped me in my tracks. But, bring it over, Helen. Let me at least take a look. No promises, mind you, but I can't stand to see you so upset. And that Mark, that snake oil salesman, needs to be stopped. He went back to cleaning his driveway, but there was an air of urgency about him now. Will Jerry agree to help, or is Helen's last hope about to vanish, sweetie?
Well, bless his heart. Jerry, that is. He's a stubborn mule, always was, but underneath that gruff exterior, he's got a heart of gold. So, I brought everything over. Bank statements, the loan documents Mark had so sweetly helped Sarah with, even the crumpled up receipts I'd found in the trash. Jerry, you see, bless him, he wasn't just any accountant.
Back in his day, he was a forensic accountant. He could sniff out a discrepancy like a truffle hog. He sat there in his dusty old office, surrounded by stacks of yellowed newspapers and forgotten files, peering at the documents through his thick glasses. He had this magnifying glass contraption with a light that he used now. The air hung thick with the smell of mothballs and stale coffee. I swear, the only thing that had changed in that room since 1985 was the addition of a slightly newer adding machine. Hours went by. I sat there, sipping lukewarm Earl Grey from a chipped mug, trying to look busy, but mostly just chewing on my nails and jumping every time the phone rang. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jerry straightened up, took off his glasses, and rubbed his tired eyes. "Helen," he said, his voice grave, "this is worse than I thought." My stomach plummeted. "What is it, Jerry? What did you find?" He pointed to the loan document, the one with Sarah's supposed signature. "This notary stamp, it's a fake, honey, a digitally altered image. I ran it through a few programs, even dusted off my old microscope. No question about it. It's a damn forgery." I gasped. "Forgery? But how is that even possible?" "Easy enough for someone with the right software and a little know-how," Jerry said grimly. "And I bet this Mark character is exactly that. This wasn't his first rodeo, trust me." But that wasn't all. He went on to explain how he'd noticed inconsistencies in the bank statements, little things that wouldn't be obvious to the untrained eye. He'd tracked the flow of money, traced the online transfers, and found a pattern. Mark was siphoning off funds from Sarah's account into a dummy account he'd set up in her name. It was elaborate, cunning, and downright evil. "But there's more," Jerry said, his eyes gleaming with a newfound energy. "Remember I told you about that pressure washing gig I do on the side? Keeps me busy, you know. Well, I've got security cameras set up around the property. Caught Mark on camera, visiting Sarah on the 15th. He claimed he was out of state at a conference that whole week in your emails to you, right?" I nodded, my heart pounding. "He said he was in Dallas at some tech convention." "Bullshit," Jerry said, slamming his fist on the desk. "That's where he was, sweetie, sweet-talking your granddaughter and bleeding her dry. I saved the footage, burned it to a disk, time-stamped and everything. Enough to put him away for a long, long time." The next day, we went to the police. I told them everything about Mark, about the loan, about the missing money, about Jerry's findings. I presented them with Jerry's evidence, the forged documents, the bank statements, the security footage. At first, they were skeptical, dismissing me as just another overprotective grandmother with too much time on her hands. But Jerry, God bless him, he stood his ground. He laid out the facts, calmly and methodically, explaining the intricacies of the fraud in a way that a child could understand. He brought his old certifications, his credentials, and decades of experience. The detective in charge, this young buck named Davis, he had this look on his face, like he didn't think much of old folks. But Jerry was nobody's fool. He didn't let Davis intimidate him. He spoke with authority, with conviction, and with the unwavering certainty that only comes from knowing you're right. Finally, Davis relented. He agreed to look into it. A week later, Mark was arrested. I was in court to watch him squirm. Jerry was there too, of course, testifying like a seasoned pro. He presented his evidence, exposed the forgery, and laid bare Mark's lies for all to see. The courtroom was silent as he spoke, every eye glued to him. I watched Mark's face as Jerry spoke, the color draining from his cheeks. He looked like a cornered rat, his arrogance replaced by a look of pure terror. He tried to deny it, of course, tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding, a conspiracy. But it was no use. The evidence was overwhelming, the truth undeniable. He was found guilty on all counts: fraud,
forgery, coercion. The judge sentenced him to 10 years in prison. Justice. It felt so good. But even as I watched them lead Mark away in handcuffs, a nagging feeling lingered in the back of my mind. Something wasn't quite right. Something was missing. Is justice finally served, or is there more to the story, honey?
Well, finally. You'd think that'd be the end of it. Justice served, Sarah's money recovered, and that snake oil salesman locked away where he couldn't prey on anyone else. But life, honey, rarely wraps up that neatly. Sarah, bless her heart, was a wreck. The shame, the guilt, the feeling of being so utterly duped, it ate at her. I suggested therapy. She resisted at first, said she didn't need some head shrinker poking around in her business, but I insisted. I told her, "Sweetie, you wouldn't hesitate to see a doctor if you had a broken leg. Your mind needs healing just as much." Eventually, she agreed, and thank God she did. It took time, a lot of tears, and a whole lot of unpacking, but slowly, Sarah started to heal. She started to see that she wasn't to blame, that Mark was a master manipulator, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And me? I had to eat a whole lot of humba pie. I'd been so quick to judge, so ready to blame her for being careless with her money. Watching her struggle, seeing the depth of her pain, it finally dawned on me how deeply I'd wounded her. I apologized, properly this time. No excuses, no justifications. Just a simple, heartfelt, "I'm sorry, Sarah. I was wrong." She hugged me so tight, tears streaming down both our faces. It was the kind of hug that said everything, the kind that mended a broken bridge. We started going out for lunch, just the two of us. We talked, really talked, about everything and nothing. About her job, her hopes, her fears. About my arthritis acting up, the price of Earl Grey tea these days, and the latest gossip at the bridge club. Slowly, painstakingly, we started rebuilding our relationship. But that nagging feeling, it just wouldn't go away. I kept thinking about Mark, about how easily he'd gained Sarah's trust. He knew so much about her finances, her anxieties, her weaknesses. It was too calculated, too precise. I started wondering, how many other women had he targeted? He worked at a big company after all, plenty of vulnerable people, folks just trying to make ends meet. One evening, I was going through some old Sarah's paperwork, helping her organize her finances again. Paranoia will do that to you, you know. And I came across a few old pay stubs from her job. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but as I looked closer, I noticed a recurring deduction for Employee Wellness Program. Now, Sarah had mentioned this program before, said it offered things like yoga classes and stress management seminars, but something about the way it was listed on the pay stub felt off. The amount was small, just a few dollars each paycheck, but it added up over time. And the name of the company that ran the program, it sounded vaguely familiar. I racked my brain, trying to remember where I'd heard it before. Then it hit me. It was the same company that Mark had used to invest Sarah's money. A shell corporation, likely, set up to funnel money out of the company. Damn it, it all clicked into place. Mark wasn't just targeting Sarah, he was running a sophisticated scam, preying on vulnerable employees, using the company's own wellness program as a front. He was a parasite feeding off the hard work and savings of ordinary people. I called Jerry, my detective friend. He listened patiently as I laid out my suspicions, explaining how the wellness program could be used to conceal the fraud. He was skeptical at first, said it was just a coincidence, but I could hear the wheels turning in his head. He agreed to look into it. A few days later, Jerry called back. He said he'd spoken to the local DA, and they were interested. The DA's office thought this went beyond the scope of their jurisdiction, however. They were contacting the FBI. The FBI, honey, can you believe it? My little Sarah, embroiled in some kind of multi-state fraud scheme. It was all so overwhelming. Jerry said the FBI would be in touch with Sarah soon. They'd want to interview her, gather evidence, and try to unravel the whole tangled mess. He warned us it could take months, even years, to get to the bottom of it. I haven't heard anything since. Sarah is understandably anxious, reliving the nightmare all over again. But this time, she's stronger. She knows she's not alone, and she's determined to see justice done, not just for herself, but for everyone else Mark may have hurt. But the whole thing leaves me with a cold feeling in my gut. I look at my friends here at the home, women on a fixed income, women who worked hard her whole lives to save a little nest egg, women who would trust a smiling face and a smooth-talking voice. Who else has Mark targeted? And will they ever be brought to justice, sweetie?